Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Navia Robinson about Gotham Knights on the CW. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your energy. I feel
well,
exhilarated.
If we're not, I get that a lot. A lot of people say that, but if we're not excited, I mean, you're on Gotham Knights, which is a great new show on the CW. If we're not excited, what's the point of all this? Let's be honest.
That is a very, very good point. Honestly, I think that's the most grounded perspective to have.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine. Like, I'm really curious about the audition process for this. Like, did you know enough when you were auditioning? Was it just kind of like secret untitled DC project? Like, what did you know about it? Like, while you auditioned?
That's a good question. I think it was called Gotham Knights.
Okay.
So I think that was, I'm pretty sure that was like, that popped out to me in the email. I was like, oh, Gotham. The character's name, right? That'll do it. The characters' names were obscured. My character was called Jenny. And I want to say maybe the character description said Batman's sidekick, but I do remember as it said plucky as hell. That was how the character was described.
Okay.
It was just a 2-page audition. So there wasn't much to glean from it other than like this character was supposed to be optimistic and lively and that she was a hero's sidekick.
Yeah.
So okay. I thought it was the character was Batgirl. That's what I deduced.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because I feel like there's some auditions you've done where maybe you're given a little bit more info in terms of what you're going in for.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, often it's all like, there's always a little bit of mystery, like people are cast, but we won't say who, or, it's gonna be produced by this person, but we won't say who the director is yet. So there's stuff like that. So this was kind of similar. There were like vague elements. Yeah.
What was it like kind of diving into the worlds out, like the comic book kind of DC geek culture world, knowing that there's such a big appetite for it? Is it something that you thought about while you were filming this, or were you kind of in the zone and now while episodes are rolling out, you're like, wow, like it's really crazy to be part of like superhero culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I was auditioning for it, the significance of it was obvious, but it wasn't just all over my mind. It wasn't what I was prioritizing, because to audition for anything, you kind of have to just like let go of the external stuff and try to embrace the character as is. So I was doing a pretty good job with that. And then it started to feel more significant as we started to do the callbacks and stuff. And I was like, oh boy, this is more serious. And then when I was officially cast and it was still a private thing, I was still kind of sort of cool about it. And then it got publicly announced. And that's when I was like, oh boy, I'm remembering how intense this fan base is. So that was a kind of a revelation for me. But I'm a huge DC Comics fan, so I had that on my side.
Absolutely. Was it kind of one of those things where when you were kind of cast for it, was it kind of one of those like, oh my God, I'm part of the DC universe moment, and it was just kind of like a couple of days of just kind of like refreshing your memory, going back and like realizing how kind of rich the DC universe is? Because I feel like that's what I would do. You know what I mean? I'd be like, I'm part of this world. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was, I definitely started just diving back into things, and I was like, I'm going to rewatch a couple episodes of Young Justice, and I'm going to fall back into it. I think I'd had a hiatus from like consuming DC stuff. And then I did, and I was like, wow, this is just unbelievable. I mean, that's what's so amazing about the pre-existing IP. It's just, there's a rich universe, as you said, to embrace from, and it's exciting.
One of my favorite things, and the CW does an amazing job with this, is Gotham Knights is that show that you have a very good balance of kind of the action superhero stuff that we all love, that we all read, but it really does a good job of having that drama and that character development and figuring out all these relationships and everything. And I feel like you have a 50-50 split of that down the middle, which is really cool. Do you notice that split when you're reading the script for it, or not really?
When I first read the pilot, I thought the pilot is primarily action, if I'm remembering it correctly. So I thought, oh yeah, this is a super action heavy show. And then the series kind of evolved, and I started to see more how it was not just going to be about action, but it was going to be even deeper about like the political world of Gotham, and also these teenagers who are establishing these, certain dynamics and things like that. So I started to realize it after I read the rest of the series. And I think it's cool. I like that because, or else this world can just get way too like heavy, and then every dramatic moment starts to feel the same. So I'm glad that there's some levity and there's some drama that's not just like Gotham is crumbling, but also these two characters are fighting. I like the
Absolutely.
balance.
You know, it's so funny. Like when, if you don't know much about it and you kind of like just see the announcement Gotham Knights, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you're not sure. You know what I mean? Is this like a medieval show? Is this like a present?
Yeah, I know what you mean. A lot of the people who I tell, like, oh, I'm doing the show called Gotham Knights, they think I'm saying Knights with an N. So they're like, oh, it's about
The crime in the
Gotham,
night
like
to Gotham.
nightlife? Yeah. No, no, like the Dark Knight. It's one of those titles.
It's amazing. A lot of people also know you as Nia in Raven's Home on Disney Channel, which
Yes.
I feel like was a cool opportunity because that was kind of a project where, you know, it was one of your first kind of bigger projects. And I feel like it was a learning experience and a stepping stone and everything. Did it feel like a combination though of like work and kind of a stepping stone and like learning a lot of it? Like, I'm just curious about that, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that their first projects are on Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, that I've asked before on my show, some people see it as kind of like, oh, it was like I was learning, it was a stepping stone. But then some people were like, no, like I was like, you know, 14, I've like treated it like a job. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a really good question. I'd been acting since I was 6 years old.
yeah.
So it was a stepping stone in that I'd never done a comedy before. I'd only ever done
Yes.
like, dramatic stuff. Right before Raven's Home, I'd done the show called Free Reign, which was more like a dramedy, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was definitely the comedic relief in that show, which I think worked because I was like 11, so I was just saying the lines, and I didn't realize they were supposed to be funny. So I was prepared for a more comedic tone in that way, but it still like totally threw me off guard. I was taking everything very seriously, and I
Yeah.
think sometimes they were like, relax, like this is a 4 camera show, there's a laugh track. So a couple people started jokingly calling me single cam because I was performing as if it was like a single camera show. For better or for worse, I kind of think comedy's best when the character doesn't know. I mean, that's why people love The Office and they love Steve Carell in it because he's taking his environment so seriously. So I think if anything, Raven's Home was a stepping stone in learning how to commit to something, even if you feel like it's silly.
Yeah.
And it's important on this show, on Gotham Knights, because I'm fighting these adults who are 3 times my size, and I can feel silly when I'm filming those sequences, and I have to remember, like, no,
Yeah, 100%.
let's
And
commit.
you know, it's crazy because you look at Disney Channel, you look at you know the DC universe and everything. These are massive and global fan bases. So like in
Yeah.
terms of like there's kind of like you know what to expect, but at the same time maybe you don't know what to expect when a new show comes out because it's Gotham
Yeah.
Knights and it's familiar territory because they know DC Universe, but it's a new show and everything, so they don't know a little bit. But like you were prepared a little bit though, right? Because you with Raven's Home, you knew like how global a lot of these fan bases are, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's cool. It's nice to, I think we can all kind of get stuck in our own silos. So what's cool about being a part of these communities that are global is like you just remember how massive the world is and the power of just TV or film, which is it just outreaches to all of these places.
Yep.
That's a very special thing to be a part of. So I had some, I don't know, I had some awareness that it would be like that, but it always shocks you. It's always like, whoa. A lot of people are watching it on HBO Max. That's crazy, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so crazy to kind of see, but there's so much content out there right now, and
Yeah.
like you know, part of the gig with Pop Turnips, we watch a lot of things, and it's just like you know, you start your weekend, and you just have a list of so many things you have
Yeah.
to watch.
How does that work? How does that work for you? Do you have like a certain around each week, how many episodes of TV are you?
Oh, a lot, especially when we're talking about Gotham Knights. I got to be caught up as much as I can for the interview, right? So
Thank
a lot
you.
of
Yeah.
it. That's why I love scheduling interviews with as like some advance, right? So I have
Right.
preparation. You know what I mean? But the ones
Yeah.
sometimes where it's like we have this person available tomorrow for press. You know, can you do it? It's like I'm up until 3 a.m. watching the movie. But you know what? I love it. and we're gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like,
I like that. I like that. See, that I feel like my equivalent to that is you have an audition and then the next day they're like, okay, you're doing a callback and you know the director, so you're like, okay, it's time to binge every single one of these directors' films
oh,
before this.
yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I'm also creative as well. You know, I produce and wrote some short films as well that are in post production right now, and it's like I get why you all do what you do, right? Like that was my first experience with like a set and like the video village and everything.
Yeah.
There is like a magical feeling of like,
Totally.
right? Like there is.
Have you seen Babylon?
Yes.
It's, it is such a Goliath of a movie, and there's so much to take in. But the special thing that I found in it is just, yeah, how magical all of that is when all of these moving pieces work together to make something and are moving towards the same direction. And regardless of the scale of a project, you feel that. It does feel magical because you are kind of pulling off a magic trick. It's hard to coordinate all these people towards one goal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you experienced that on your short film. We experienced it filming our series. It's really...
Yeah. It's funny too though how, you know, I love all kinds of movies. I'm a big horror movie fan and everything.
Same.
But we need to laugh and we need to have a good time, because my favorite movie of all time. Do you know what your favorite movie of all time is, or is that kind of hard?
That's a super hard question, but I can think of some movies that are very special to me. I think of Mean Streets. I think of
that's a good one.
Lady Bird.
Oh,
I think of
Bird.
Waves. I love Waves.
Great. These are great. Like that's a great list. I love Lady Bird. Lady Bird's so good. My favorite movie of all time is School of Rock.
Oh, I love School of Rock. I love School of Rock. I was just thinking about Richard Linklater because I love Dazed and Confused, and I think that's a special movie to me too.
It's just so, I don't know. And I'm like, PD Beats is kind of like that's kind of like my handle, so to speak, for my interviews, because I used to be in bands and I was playing drums. That was like my stage name.
Oh my gosh.
So it's kind of like the music component, but but it's just funny because like I'm a big horror movie fan. There is a movie in 2015, not to be confused with the one that just came out. There's a movie from 2015. It did around on Netflix. I think it's available on Prime. You said you like horror movies, so if you haven't seen this, you need to watch this one. It's called The Invitation.
Oh, I feel like
the 2015 one, because there was one that just came out with Natalie Emmanuel and Thomas Doherty, which is great. About like it's kind of like a Bram Stoker's Dracula a little bit, but this one's 2015, directed by Karen Kusama, who is executive producer on Yellow Jackets on Showtime, and this movie, Navia, got me into this movie made me want to make movies.
Really? Oh, this is so exciting.
Yeah, it's basically Dinner Party Gone Wrong. That's basically what I'll say. It's got Logan
I'm gonna watch
Green.
this.
It was on Netflix for a little bit, but I think it's on one of the major streaming platforms. I think Prime, but it's just so like it's crazy, and it does what I love with horror is like there's new ways of scaring people now. There's the psychological game. You don't need the jump scares. You don't need the gore. They're good to have. They're around, but it's like, when you work on a lot of different projects, because you did mention, Raven's Home was your first comedy, you work on drama, some action. Does the mindset change at all, preparation-wise, or is it all storytelling?
Yeah, no, the mindset definitely, well, that's a good question. The mindset changes, but also, yes, it's all storytelling. It's, there's a split that you have to make because you want to just treat every character as the same. You want to inhabit every character, but it is important to keep in mind the tone and the environment of the world, which is hard because that means you have to kind of lean into your own self-consciousness. And it's tricky because you want to maintain the character and the truth of it, but your performance can look really, really insane in a show if you're not aware of what the tone and environment is.
Yeah.
So it's both.
That is such a good point. And sometimes, because I said I'm a big horror movie fan, I will interview people from like some of my favorite and scariest horror movies I've ever seen. I think it's crazy because some people that like act in horror movies, Navia, like they can't do scary movies. And it always blows my mind, right? Because like you said, you're a fan of horror movies. So if you worked on a horror movie, you'd get scared, but you'd be able to do it. I interviewed someone and I you can find the interview. It's out there, but they're like in some terrifying scenes of this horror movie. And they said that they can't do horror movies. And I find that so
That's
interesting.
so interesting. As in, they can't watch them?
Yeah, they're scared of horror movies. But they're in like a
Wow.
very
Yeah.
scary movie.
Yeah, that is so funny. I mean, I have some friends like that too who have also done horror stuff in the past, so I get it. But
It's cool to me. Like, it's cool to hear that.
yeah,
I don't know. I
yeah.
find that you could separate it. You know what I mean?
Maybe they're
Like,
maybe they're even better because of it. Because if they're actually, yeah, it's kind of
do you know
scared of
what
their
oh, this is great. This is a whole like horror movie talk right now. I love this.
Yes, and me too. I love yeah, go. I'll
What were
let
we
you
gonna
finish.
say? What were we gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I'm thinking horror movies I love. I love X. That comes to mind immediately. Did you see that one?
Of course.
So great. I'm just such a big Mia Goth fan.
Did
I
you
think
see
she's
Malignant, the James Wan's
No,
movie?
I have to watch that. What is
That
that?
was a really good one.
Okay.
Barbarian was terrifying.
Yeah.
Smile was like one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I only saw the trailer, so I have not seen the actual film.
It's terrifying. Like, it's
Okay.
very scary, and it's like it's very hard to make like. There's like there's a horror TV show on MGM Plus now called From, which is coming back for season 2. It's terrifying. Like,
From.
yeah,
I'm gonna
From.
look this
No,
up.
it's terrifying. It's so good, and I love horror. It's amazing. I could talk for a while on that. Before we wrap up, episodes are kind of rolling out on the CW for Gotham Knights. When I get a chance to watch this show, Navia, what are you hoping they'll get out of it, takeaway wise?
I am hoping, well, I'm hoping that people give it a chance. I think that the showrunners did a really great job of making the episodes kind of parables for things that are happening in real life and kind of just the trends of our current world, and doing it in a palatable and discreet enough way to where it's still something you want to watch.
Yep.
The last episode that just aired yesterday was one of my favorites. It kind of, I don't know if anybody sees this in it, but I saw it in it. It almost covers the topic of like wealth redistribution in a kind of subtle and funny way. And I think that's where Gotham Knights' strengths are. It covers these topics of redemption and death and politics and whatever in a way that's enjoyable to watch. So I hope that's what people take away. And I ultimately think it's sort of a hopeful show as well. And I hope people feel that from it.
That was an amazing answer. That was, if there was that was an A+ answer.
Woo!
Everyone needs to go watch Gotham Knights right now.
Yes.
Navia, it was so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
You're a blast, honestly. Thank you very much.
I really appreciate that. Episodes are rolling on the CW. Is your Instagram account, is it just your name if people want to keep update with everything?
Yeah, just my name, Navia Robinson. Robinson.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, look out for Navia Robinson in Gotham Knights on the CW. Until next time, it's Navia and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.